It was a rainy night when the siren screamed closer to the hospital. Moments later, the doors burst open. People rushed in, carrying a stretcher. On it lay a boy, perhaps 10 or 11. His clothes were torn, wet, and dark with blood. He was barely breathing, each gasp weak and shallow. Life seemed to be slipping away. His eyes were closed, his face pale, and there was so much blood. The people who brought him were strangers. They quickly put the stretcher down and vanished into the rainy night, leaving him alone. The boy had nothing on him, no ID, no insurance, no family contact. He was just a boy, unknown, fighting for his life. Mrs. Cole, the head nurse, looked at the boy and the empty chairs. "No ID, no insurance, no deposit," she mumbled. "We can't just treat him. Who will pay for the medicines? The hospital needs money to run." The other nurses, though sympathetic, nodded. Rules were rules. They waited for direction. But Amara, Nurse Amara, did not wait. Amara was different. She had kind eyes and a strong heart, believing every life was precious, regardless of money. When she saw the boy, she saw a child dying, needing help now. Her heart pounded, urging her to act. She rushed to his side. She touched his forehead. It was cold and clammy. His breaths were shallow. She knew every second mattered. Time was a cruel thief. "He needs help now." Amara's voice was clear and firm. "He is dying. We cannot wait for money when a life is hanging by a thread." Mrs. Cole frowned. "Amara, you know the rules. Who will be responsible if the hospital loses money? Mr. Davies will be very angry." "I will be responsible," Amara declared, her voice shaking but determined. She knew the risk, losing her job, facing trouble. But the boy's fading life was more important than any rule, any job, any money. "We are nurses. Our first duty is to save lives, not to count coins." Without another word, Amara started to work. She called for the emergency doctor. She quickly prepared bandages and medicines. Her hands moved fast and precisely. She cleaned his wounds, put a mask on his face to aid his breathing, and started an 4 drip. She checked his heartbeat, his blood pressure. She spoke quickly to the doctor, sharing every detail. Together, they fought for the boy's life, second by painful second. The other nurses watched, some with worry, some with shame. Amara worked like a storm of kindness, bringing life. She ignored their whispers. Her mind was only on the boy. She cleaned him, bandaged him, made him as comfortable as possible. The doctor worked with her, his face serious, his hands skilled. They pushed back against the darkness. Hours stretched on. The rain stopped, but the emergency room air was still heavy. Amara stayed by the boy's side, checking on him constantly. Slowly, very slowly, his breathing became a little stronger. His pale color improved slightly. He was still in danger, but he was no longer slipping away so fast. He was holding on. Amara had pulled him back from the edge. She felt tired, her bones aching, her mind blurry. But she also felt a deep sense of peace. She had done what was right. She had followed her heart. She had given the boy a precious gift, life. The next morning, the sun rose, bringing a new day. But for Amara, it brought a new, colder problem. The boy was still unconscious, stable but fragile, like a small bird with a broken wing. He lay still, connected to soft beeping machines. Amara sat beside him, watching, gently holding his hand. "You are strong," she whispered. "Keep fighting, little one. You can do it." Just then, Mr. Davies, the hospital owner, walked in. He rarely visited the emergency room, usually staying in his fancy office. Today, his face was red with anger, his eyes cold. Mrs. Cole followed, looking nervous. Mr. Davies walked straight to Amara. "Nurse Amara," he said, his voice sharp, "I understand you started treatment on this boy without any deposit, without knowing who he is, without any family to pay. Is this true?" Amara stood straight, her heart pounding. "Sir, the boy was dying. There was no time to wait. No time." Mr. Davies laughed, a dry, ugly sound. "There is always time for protocol, Nurse Amara. This hospital is a business. We cannot afford to treat every person without a means to pay. Who do you think will pay for this expensive equipment? The medicines. Your salary. His life, sir, is more important than money, Amara said, her voice quiet but firm. He is a child. He still needs care. We cannot stop the treatment now. He might lose his life. He might die. Mr. Davies's face grew redder. You cannot stop. Who do you think you are? You broke the rules. And now you refuse a direct order. I cannot stop, Amara repeated, meeting his gaze steadily. It would be wrong. It would be against everything I believe as a nurse. It would be murder. The word murder hung in the air. Mrs. Cole gasped. Mr. Davies stared at Amara, his chest heaving with anger. He had never been defied like this. Very well, Nurse Amara, Mr. Davies said, his voice dangerously calm. He pulled a crisp, white letter from his pocket. Then you leave me no choice. This is your dismissal letter. You are fired, Nurse Amara. Your employment here ends today. Amara felt a cold shock. Fired. Her only income. The hospital was her life, her way to earn money. Her hands trembled as she took the letter. The words blurred. Dismissal. Effective immediately. She looked at the letter, then at Mr. Davies, then at the sleeping boy, helpless and innocent. How could she leave him? He hadn't woken up. He was too weak to leave. Who would care for him now? She doubted the other nurses would give him the same dedication. They would follow orders. No money, no full care. A huge wave of despair washed over her. She was jobless, with almost no savings. And now, she had a sick, unconscious boy with no one else. What was she going to do? Her mind raced. She couldn't walk away. It felt wrong, like abandoning a sinking boat. She had saved him. She had to see it through. A crazy, dangerous idea formed. It was the only idea that offered hope. She looked at the boy again, his innocent face. No, she couldn't leave him. She would take him with her. It was almost midnight when Amara carried the boy out of the hospital. The rain had stopped, and the city was quiet. She had wrapped him carefully in a thick blanket. He was light, too light for his age. She told the kind night nurse, Ngozi, that she was taking him to another hospital for special care, away from Mr. Davies. Ngozi, seeing Amara's desperate eyes, did not ask questions. She trusted Amara. Amara did not have a car. She lived in a small apartment, a long walk from the hospital. The streets were wet and dark. Carrying the boy felt heavy, not just in her aching arms, but deep in her heart. She was jobless, with no money, and now a very sick boy needing constant care. Fear pricked at her. But then she looked at his pale face, his gentle breathing, and her fear turned into fierce determination. She would find a way. She had to. She walked slowly, carefully, one painful step after another. Her arms and shoulders burned. She thought about her small apartment, one bedroom, a tiny kitchen, a small bathroom. Just enough space for herself. Now, she needed to make space for him, a sick boy needing constant attention and expensive medicines. Finally, after what felt like forever, she reached her building. It was old, with peeling paint and creaky stairs. She climbed them slowly, breathless, to the third floor. She fumbled with her keys and opened the door. The air inside was cool and still. She gently laid the boy on her own bed, which she had quickly cleared. She found an old, soft blanket, folded it many times, and placed it under his head. She covered him with another warm blanket. Her apartment felt different now, no longer just her space. It felt like a sick room, a place of hope and worry. She looked at her few things, a small table, 2 chairs, an old radio. Now, some might have to go to pay for the boy's needs. Setting up the makeshift sick room was hard. She needed a clean place for medicines, a small light for the night. She put water nearby. She remembered all the hospital's modern equipment. Here, it was just her, alone, with her knowledge and strong will. She sat by his side all night, watching him, listening to every breath. Her own sleep was light and broken, full of worry. She was a nurse again, but here, hospital rules and money meant nothing. Only the boy mattered. Only his recovery. The days that followed were a blur of worry, endless work, and little rest. Caring for an unconscious boy in a small apartment was much harder than in a hospital. There, everything was ready. Here, Amara was alone. She was nurse, doctor, cleaner, cook, provider. She was everything. Her first and biggest problem was money. Amara had little savings, enough for a few weeks of her own basic needs. Now, she needed money for the boy's expensive medicines, fresh bandages, and special liquid food. Each trip to the pharmacy made her stomach twist, seeing her small pile of money shrink. She woke before the sun every day. First, she checked on the boy, his breathing, temperature, pulse. She gently cleaned him, changed his bandages, and gave him medicine exactly on time. She warmed his liquid food and slowly fed it to him. Every small sound or movement, she noted. Then, she cleaned the apartment, washed his clothes by hand, and found something for herself to eat, often just plain rice or a banana. Her own hunger was not important. The boy's needs came first. After 2 weeks, her savings were almost gone. Only a few coins remained, not enough for his next dose of medicine. Despair, cold and heavy, settled in her chest. She needed money fast. She looked around her tiny apartment. What could she sell? Her eyes landed on a small, old wooden box on her bedside table. Inside lay a necklace. It wasn't fancy gold, but it was very special. Her grandmother had given it to her on her 18th birthday. "This," her grandmother had said, "is to remind you of strength and kindness, Amara." It was her only piece of jewelry, a precious link to her past. Her hand trembled as she picked it up. The beads felt smooth and warm. Selling it felt like selling a piece of her heart, a memory. But the boy needed medicine. His weak life depended on it. With a heavy sigh, a tear rolling down her cheek, Amara took the necklace. She walked to the small market where an old man bought used things. He offered very little money, much less than it was worth to her. But Amara did not argue. She took the money, her heart aching, and rushed to the pharmacy. The boy's medicine was bought. She came home, feeling empty but also purposeful. She had made a sacrifice for a good reason. The boy, still sleeping, seemed a little calmer, his breathing more regular. She told herself her grandmother would understand. Another week passed. Then another. Days bled into weeks, weeks into a month. The boy showed no big signs of waking. He remained in the same quiet, unconscious state. Amara talked to him often, whispering, telling him stories. She read him simple stories and sang soft songs, hoping her voice would call him back. Her own body started to feel the heavy strain. She was always tired, bone-weary. Her bones ached. She ate even less. Her clothes felt loose on her shrinking frame. She walked with a slight slump, her shoulders heavy. She had to sell more things. Her old radio was sold. Then a beautiful clay pot, a gift. Each item was like letting go of a part of her life, a memory. Her apartment, once simple, now felt almost empty. The walls were bare. Her small table had only one chair. It was desolate. One evening, a neighbor, Mama Nkechi, a kind old woman, saw Amara leaving her apartment with a small bundle. Mama Nkechi had noticed Amara looked thinner and paler, and that a strange quiet had fallen over her apartment. "Amara, my child," Mama Nkechi said, her voice soft with worry. "You look so tired. Is everything well? I haven't seen you at the hospital in many days." Amara paused. She didn't want to tell Mama Nkechi about the boy or losing her job. "I am fine, Mama," she said, forcing a smile. "Just a bit tired. I am on a break from work." She quickly went past Mama Nkechi, clutching the bundle, an embroidered cloth from her mother, another item to sell. Back in her apartment, she sat by the boy's bed, tears welling in her eyes. The house felt empty and cold. Her stomach rumbled loudly. She missed her job, her simple life. She felt utterly alone, facing this huge burden herself. "Boy," she whispered, her voice rough with unshed tears. "Please wake up. Please. I don't know how much longer I can do this. I am so tired." She leaned her head against the cool bed frame, feeling defeated. For a dangerous moment, she thought about giving up, taking him to an orphanage or another hospital and just walking away. She had done her best. No one could blame her. But then, as if in answer to her silent plea, something happened. Something small, almost missed. A very subtle movement. So tiny, she almost missed it. The boy, who had been perfectly still for weeks, twitched. Just a tiny twitch of his left eyelid. It was so fast, so small, Amara thought she had imagined it. She held her breath. She leaned closer, eyes fixed on his face. She waited. Time stretched, silent and long. Then, it happened again. This time, clearer, stronger. His eyelid flickered. And then, a very, very soft sound, like a gentle sigh, escaped his lips. Amara's heart jumped. It wasn't a dream. He had moved. He had made a sound. A glimmer of hope, bright and warm, shot through her. It was like sunshine breaking through stormy clouds. "Oh, thank goodness," she whispered, tears of relief sliding down her cheeks. "You are fighting. You are really fighting, my brave boy." Her tiredness seemed to lift, replaced by new energy. This small sign was everything. It told her her sacrifices were not in vain. It told her to keep going. She renewed her promises. She would not give up. Not now. The days that followed were filled with anxious hope. The boy's small movements became more frequent, stronger. His fingers would twitch. His foot would wiggle. Each small sign was a huge victory for Amara, filling her with renewed purpose. She kept talking, singing, telling him stories, believing her voice was pulling him back. She continued her daily care with even more dedication. She measured medicines carefully, made sure his skin was clean, and kept the small room quiet. To buy food and more medicines, Amara had to sell almost everything she owned. Her 2 chairs were gone. Her small cooking pot was sold. Even some good clothes. She was left with only the very basics: the bed, a thin mat for herself, a few old plates. Her apartment was almost completely empty, echoing with quiet sounds and hopeful whispers. She ate very little, mostly plain rice or gari. She often felt dizzy, her head light from hunger and exhaustion. But when she looked at the boy, his slow, steady improvement gave her new strength, new courage. His progress fueled her spirit. Then, one bright, sunny morning, it happened. The big, wonderful thing she had prayed for, worked for, and sacrificed everything for, finally happened. It was a moment etched forever in her memory. Amara was sitting by the boy's bed, gently wiping his forehead with a cool cloth. She was humming a soft lullaby. The room was bright with morning sun. Suddenly, the boy's eyelids fluttered. This time, it wasn't just a twitch. They opened slowly, little by little, like heavy curtains pulled apart. Amara stopped humming. Her hand froze. She stared, holding her breath, her heart pounding. His eyes were a clear, warm brown. They were sleepy at first, unfocused, then slowly moved, looking around the small room. Finally, his eyes rested on Amara's face. He blinked once, then twice. His brow wrinkled slightly, as if trying to understand where he was, who she was. A flicker of thought crossed his face. "Hello," Amara whispered, her voice thick with emotion. Tears, hot and happy, filled her eyes. "Hello, my brave boy. You are awake. You are finally awake." The boy tried to speak. His lips moved weakly, but no sound came out. He looked very weak. His eyes still held a faraway look, like he was trying to remember something important. Amara smiled, a wide, joyful smile. She reached out and gently took his hand. It felt warm, and this time, he squeezed her hand back, very lightly. A faint squeeze, but it was there, a promise of life. "Don't try to talk yet," Amara said, her voice soft and soothing, full of love. "You are safe. You are at my home. You have been asleep for a long, long time. Just rest now." She stayed by his side, explaining everything in simple, calming words. She told him about the car crash, about bringing him home, about her care. She didn't tell him about being fired or selling her things yet. Those were stories for later. Over the next few days, the boy slowly got stronger. Amara continued giving him liquid food, then soft foods like mashed yam and thin soup. She helped him drink water. She helped him sit up in bed, then stand, holding his hands as he took shaky steps. His muscles were weak from lying down so long. He could whisper a few words now. His voice was rough. Where am I?" he asked one afternoon, his eyes still confused. "You are safe," Amara repeated, smiling. "My name is Amara. What is your name, little one?" The boy frowned, trying hard to remember. He closed his eyes tightly, then shook his head. I don't know. I can't remember." Amara's heart sank a little. "Amnesia." "It's okay," she said kindly. "It will come back. Slowly. Don't worry. We will find your family." But as days turned into weeks, the boy still couldn't remember his name or where he came from. He remembered small things, like eating and walking, but his past was a blank page. He called Amara Mama Amara, because she cared for him like a mother. One evening, Amara was listening to her old radio, which she had managed to buy back with money from a small cleaning job. The news was on. And the search continues for young David Adewale, the missing son of Chief Adewale, the famous philanthropist and businessman. He was kidnapped several weeks ago, and police have no new leads. Chief Adewale has offered a huge reward for any information leading to his safe return. Amara listened, her eyes wide, her blood turning cold then hot. David Adewale. Kidnapped. Wealthy philanthropist. Several weeks ago. Her heart pounded. She looked at the boy, who was drawing with a crayon. His hair was a little long, covering his forehead. Wait. Amara remembered something. When she first cleaned his head wounds in the hospital, she had noticed a small, pale scar just above his left eyebrow. It was shaped like a tiny star, almost hidden by his hair. A unique mark. She walked slowly to the boy. "David," she whispered, trying the name. The boy looked up. His eyes, usually bright, held a flicker of something new. Recognition. Confusion. He didn't answer. "Do you have a small scar here?" Amara asked, gently pushing back the hair above his left eyebrow. And there it was. Small, pale, shaped like a tiny star. Unmistakable. Amara felt a jolt. It was him. This boy, the one she saved, cared for, sacrificed everything for, was David Adewale, the kidnapped son of a rich, powerful man. A national search was happening, and he was here, in her small, empty apartment. Her mind raced. This was huge, unbelievable. A miracle. She felt relief, fear, and a strange sense of fate. She had defied the hospital, lost her job, struggled, all for this boy. And now the truth was known. She knew she had to tell someone. But who? She was a fired nurse. Would anyone believe her? She thought about the hospital, Mr. Davies. They would surely blame her, twist the story. No. She would go to the police. They had to believe her. She had proof, the boy, now awake, and his unique scar. She had done nothing wrong. The next morning, Amara walked to the nearest police station, holding David's hand tightly. David, still unsure, trusted her completely. At the police station, Amara told her story. The crash, the hospital's refusal, her decision to act, her firing, taking him home and caring for him. She showed them the boy, pointed to his scar. The police officer, a kind but serious woman, listened carefully. She called for more officers. They looked at the boy, checked his scar, and asked simple questions. David, still confused, could only point to Amara as Mama Amara. One officer looked at Amara with wide eyes. "Nurse Amara, we've been looking for you too. The hospital reported a missing boy, and they said you were responsible." Amara felt fear, but met his gaze firmly. "I was saving his life. They wanted to let him die for money." The officer nodded. "We will investigate that. But first, we need to contact Chief Adewale." News traveled fast. Within hours, the police confirmed David's identity. His memory was foggy, but details he remembered, along with his scar, matched perfectly with the missing persons report. The boy was truly David Adewale. Chief Adewale, David's father, arrived at the police station with his wife, Mrs. Adewale. They looked exhausted, their faces showing weeks of pain. When they saw David, standing shyly behind Amara, pure joy washed over their faces. "David!" Chief Adewale cried, his voice breaking. He rushed and knelt, pulling his son into a tight hug. Mrs. Adewale joined them, tears streaming. It was a beautiful, emotional reunion. Amara stood back, watching with a lump in her throat. This was the moment she had worked for. The boy was safe. After the tears, Chief Adewale turned to Amara. He truly looked at her, seeing her thinness, her tired eyes, but also deep kindness and strength. "Nurse Amara," he said, his voice full of gratitude, "I don't know how to thank you. You saved my son. You brought him back. We searched everywhere, lost all hope, and you were there. You are a hero." Amara felt shy. "I just did what was right, sir. He needed help." "What you did was more than right." "It was a miracle," Mrs. Adewale added, her eyes shining with thanks. "We heard what the hospital did. We heard you lost your job for David. We cannot let that stand." Chief Adewale, a powerful and fair man, kept his word. He made sure the whole story came out. The hospital's actions, Nurse Amara's bravery and sacrifice, became known nationwide. People were shocked by the hospital's greed and touched by Amara's selflessness. The hospital, facing bad publicity and a possible legal case from Chief Adewale, quickly changed its tune. Mr. Davies publicly apologized to Amara. He offered her job back, with a raise, and promised to change the hospital's rules to prioritize patient lives over money. But Amara shook her head. "Thank you, Mr. Davies," she said, calm and firm. "But I cannot go back there. My heart is for healing, not for fighting rules about money." Chief Adewale, seeing her spirit, made her a new offer. "Nurse Amara," he said, "my family has a large foundation that helps children. We also have a private medical clinic. We would be honored if you would lead our health programs. You would have all the resources you need, and you would be able to help anyone, without worrying about money." Amara's eyes widened. It was a dream job. A place where she could truly help, where kindness was valued. "Yes," she said, a happy tear falling. "Yes, I would love that very much." Amara's life was transformed. She got a good salary, a comfortable home near the Adewale family's estate, and a car. More than that, she gained respect and a deep, lasting connection with David and his family. David, once fully recovered and his memory returned, never forgot Mama Amara. He visited her often, sharing a special bond. Amara dedicated her life to helping others, especially forgotten children. She built new clinics in poor areas, ensuring no one was turned away for lack of money. She taught other nurses that compassion and quick action were more important than any rulebook when a life was on the line. Dear viewers, what lesson did you learn from this powerful story? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Share this with your friends too. Someone out there needs to hear it.